everyone, welcome to CyberScoop TV. Greg Otto, your editor-in-chief here. We're coming to you from the floor of the 2019 Black Hat Conference. I'm talking with Paul Vixie, founder and CEO of Farsight Security. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for coming over.
So, DNS hijacking has been extremely prevalent this year. Even DHS put out an emergency warning about it earlier this year. Why does it continue to be so prevalent?
I think people rob banks because that's where the money is, and I think people want to interfere with DNS because DNS is the first thing that happens anytime any internet activity starts. And so if you can get in the middle of DNS, then you can control almost everything else people see and do.
So why do you think that nation states are looking so much at DNS? Because with the attacks that we've seen, Iran is big in DNS. I think there's been some noise around what North Korea is doing in the space. Why is this becoming a nation state part of the focus?
Nation states have always used whatever the public infrastructure was in order to execute their mission, right? And they have, according to treaty, nation states are expected to exercise, defense against the outside world to try to make their nation stronger in some way. So it's natural that they would eventually wake up to the internet and say, hey, if you're going to put everything online, that makes it easier for us to do our job as a nation state. And once everything is online, then again, the most bang for the buck you'll get is by attacking DNS. It's much easier to change a DNS result than to get in the middle of maybe a secure conversation and redirect it. If you can make the conversation go in the direction you wanted it to go in the first place, then you don't have to intercept it. It's directed to you. So it's delivered, it's more of our personal information, more of our commercial information delivered on a silver platter rather than having to go hunt around for it.
So if I'm looking to defend against this, how do I prevent it from happening?
So if you mean you as an individual end user.
Well, collectively, if I'm an enterprise, how is an enterprise?
So there's been a lot of work done to make DNS more secure. The problem is that DNS is not really a frontline, sexy protocol. You don't get a bonus for investing in it, and that needs to change. So in particular, I really want to get the word out about DNSSEC, which is a way to sign data by a domain owner so that the signatures can be verified by everyone who consumes data. And that means that no man in the middle or woman in the middle can then inject their own data because they won't have the right signatures. So this is a little difficult to get working. There will be some costs, there will be some investment, but the payback in sort of peace of mind will be much greater than that cost. So DNSSEC first and foremost. But the other thing that enterprises must do is start to pay attention to their registrar, right? If you've got an enterprise, they've got either a handful of domain names, maybe they've got hundreds of domain names, they are having to have contractual relationships with companies like GoDaddy, like Network Solutions, that are in the business of then registering those domains for them and keeping them secure. When you do that, you have to make sure that the credentials that you use with that registrar, that DNS provider, are not easily guessed, right? And some of the worst break-ins we've seen have been because people use their dog's name as their password for getting into their GoDaddy account. That's not GoDaddy's fault, that's us not realizing how incredibly important this all is.
So what sectors do you see that are starting to pay attention to it more and more? Government, financial, healthcare, where are you seeing the growth in DNSSEC?
So the government is a strange case because they are apparently guided by the rule of law, and they've got all sorts of internal regulations and the ability to, for a president to write a presidential order and say we're gonna run the government in the following way. So that's been done 4 or 5 times now for DNSSEC. But the problem is that if an agency can demonstrate that they don't have the budget, the people, the time, whatever it is, they can't afford to comply, they can seek an exemption, and those exemptions have been very freely given. And that's why every new president has to renew the presidential order. I mean it this time, everybody's got to use DNSSEC. So I'd like to see whoever is granting those exemptions maybe you get a little bit more conservative, right? We should just do it once and for all. It's not impossible. It's not outlandishly expensive. Sometimes it just means telling the vendor of your DNS services, by the way, I want DNSSEC. But for the rest of enterprises, that gets tricky because we are all worried about a number of different threats, and DNS registry hijack would be one. DNS poisoning in the style that is stopped by DNSSEC would be one. We also have to worry about denial of service attacks. So we're making so many investments in so many areas that if you then add one more thing, by the way, in addition to the rest, please make sure you're signing your data with DNSSEC and that you're validating the answers you're getting from other people's servers using the DNSSEC that they included. That will often turn out to be the one thing on top of everything else that would break their camel's back, and they say, we can't do that this year. And then next year they think about it again. I want to say, it is hard to be first, right? There's a bit of a chicken or egg thing here. There's a significant last mover advantage to bringing up new technology, because if, for example, you're signing your own DNS data before the rest of the world is validating signatures, you're doing yourself no good.
Right.
On the other hand, if you're validating signatures before the rest of the world is generating those signatures, you're doing yourself, again, no good.
Right, okay.
So what somebody has to do is break the chicken or egg cycle and say, I don't care if it makes no sense right now, I need to be part of the early adopter, or there's never going to be a late adopter because it'll never take off. So I'm not asking for corporate activism exactly. I am asking for people to take the long view and realize that we are capable, sort of using our dollar votes, of choosing which timeline we want to be on. And if you want to be on the timeline where this becomes safe someday, that might mean you make an investment that doesn't pay off right now.
Okay, so finally, Paul, we're talking to every expert and asking what they do in their own personal life to be more secure. I feel like everybody comes to this conference and talks about end users that they really don't ever see. So what do you do on a personal level to enhance your own cybersecurity?
Okay, so I'm a really bad example because I've been
okay.
I've been doing this since before it was commercial. So
okay.
I've got email folders that go back to the 80s.
Okay.
I have always run all of my own mail servers, name servers, file servers, and nobody really except me or people from my era can afford to do that.
Okay.
So if I imagine myself in the position of somebody who didn't know how to do it all, and I had to figure out, well, all right, you got to outsource to somebody. Who's it going to be? You probably want to, first and foremost, realize that Cambridge Analytica could not have leaked all of that data to the Brexit campaigns and the Trump campaigns if we, Facebook's users, hadn't given it to Facebook in the first place. So I think we need to be a little bit more careful about where we put our personal information, and a little bit more thoughtful about how it could be used against us in some future situation. Most people have no time for those thoughts. So maybe once a year on your birthday have those thoughts, but at some point in your life, please pay attention to whether you're making your own situation worse because you're taking the easy way out on a day-by-day basis.
So when you're getting those Facebook happy birthday messages, might be time to look into something further than just the messages themselves.
Yes.
Okay, Paul, really appreciate you hopping aboard and speaking with us today.
Well, thanks again for having me on.
For all of our videos, check out our YouTube channel, and for more on Black Hat and all things cybersecurity, check out cyberscoop.com. I'm Greg Otto. Thanks for watching.